All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the cATalyzing podcast. So excited to feature a great example, in my opinion, of a leader when we talk about um, being able to think big picture while also staying very grounded. And Tony Cava, I'm so excited to have you on the cATalyzing podcast. Tony is the former president and CEO of RWJUH Somerset, a part of the RWJ Barnabas Health System. And now he's enjoying the retirement life, much earned. And so I'm so glad to have you, Tony, join us today for a conversation about the concept of head in the clouds, feet in the dirt. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ryan, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to see you again, number one, and also to share some thoughts with you. So I'm really excited about this, and yes, I am enjoying retirement. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we had the pleasure, of working together for probably about 6 years or so. You started at RWJ in 2015-ish.
2015, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I
Mhm.
came back in 2016. So really awesome experience working together. And before we get into the topic of head in the clouds, feet in the dirt, first of all, what's your plan for retirement? How are you enjoying this time with post work? And then also, what's one thing that you miss about working with the team in your role at RWJ Somerset?
Yeah, so I've been asked that question a lot by a lot of people. I'm a voracious reader, and during my work life, I wasn't able to read a lot, and now I'm happy to say I'm reading about a book a week. So I'm really excited about catching up on some of the novels that I've missed out, both fiction and nonfiction. I also love spending time with my grandkids and my family. We have a place down shore, and I haven't been able to spend the time with them that I would have liked. And now this summer, for the first time in a long time, I'm able to spend that time with my family. So that's what I plan on doing, and don't plan on doing any work in this year. I'll look at possibly next year. I've had a few offers, but I've turned them all down. So, and as far as what do I miss, I actually miss the people the most. The executives are the executives, but I miss interacting with the team on any given day. I miss making rounds at the hospital and talking to the folks and visiting the patients. So that's the thing that I really miss.
That's awesome. And then I can just speak personally from my experience working with you, Tony. That's exactly why I wanted to have that conversation with you about head in the cloud, feet in the dirt, because you were a very grounded leader. And not only were you able to think big picture, but you were also very in tune with the team and what was going on. So let's talk about that with leaders being able to maintain big picture thinking while at the same time staying grounded and understanding the challenges that their teams face on a regular basis. What does that really, what comes to mind when we talk about head in the cloud, feet in the dirt, from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, I think it's a balance, Ryan. I think that in order for a leader to be successful, he or she has to make sure that the team around them, through every level, understands what the vision is of the organization and why we're there. And to me, the communication of that message is really key to the success of an organization. And it's not nirvana. It's never foolproof. You're never going to get 100% of the folks to buy into whatever the message is. But the key is to be able to communicate that out in as many different forms as possible. Verbal communication, informally, formally, putting out emails or putting out newsletters on a weekly basis that I used to do. All those kind of things are really important. The leader has to frame out the vision for any organization, but the communication downwards, so there's understanding, and it gets more and more complicated as the workforce becomes very diverse in terms of age, right? We have a really wide swath of individuals in an organization, most organizations now. You have the baby boomers down to the Gen Zers and the Gen Xers, or whatever the appropriate moniker is, and you have to be able to meld those generations together. And that to me was one of the biggest challenges. I am obviously a baby boomer, but I had to learn how to understand the Gen Xers and the Gen Zers and how they think. And that I think is one of the biggest challenges, coupled with the worst workforce shortages that leaders are going to have on a go forward basis to keep that head in the clouds and feet on the ground phenomenon.
especially when there were so many levels to the hospital system, not just at RWJ Somerset. There was levels there, but then you have the whole system, RWJ Barnabas Health as a whole,
Yeah.
and having to navigate that. You're absolutely right. Communication is so key. Because not only is it just a matter of communicating the most information, it's communicating it in a way that it's absorbed and received well by your team. And you mentioned that there's such a diverse workforce of not just diversity in background, but diversity in age and personalities, that it's trying to fine tune what's the best way to get this message out, or I might have to put it out 2 different ways or 3 different ways, saying the same thing but in different mediums. And that's definitely something that truly helps. How do you navigate that when you have the executive team, then you have the service line leaders, the directors, and then you have their teams that report to them? What are some strategies that you found with that communication that worked really well, trying to communicate the big picture stuff while also making it two-way, because you were also very receptive to communication. It's got to be two-way. What were some strategies you found helpful with that?
Yeah, I don't think strategies to me is may not be the right word
Mm-hmm.
in that particular venue that you speak about. I really think it's a matter of being able to connect, and how do you make those connections? And you start with a really good leadership team. I was fortunate to have a senior leadership team that was like-minded, and we all understood that what the mission was, and we all understood the importance of getting the team on board, and that's really important. And one of the things that I've always done, and I know that my successor is doing as well, is really no silos, especially at the executive level. Everyone kind of cross-pollinates each other and really works together with the team. But again, it's really common sense. It comes down to the best way to be able to communicate. And I've always tried, I always, Anastasia Jacobs, who I'm sure you remember, who was our CHRO, we talked about always communicating in 10 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of repetition in what we did, but we felt that we had to do that in order to have that message trickle down. And I've always told the staff this too. They have a responsibility. If I put out something, their job, their obligation as an employee is to read it. And if
Mm-hmm.
they don't understand it, they need to ask questions of their leaders. And that was what I've always told them as I round it and did what we did. Recognition is really important. Everyone, you've heard many times reward and recognition. I think the
Yeah.
recognition is more important than the reward sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of little things that really resonated with the staff. We celebrated a lot. We did a lot of celebrations. I'm sure you remember during
Mm-hmm.
COVID, we
Absolutely.
did the clap ins and the clap outs almost every single day. We did T-shirts at various times.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of goofy things like pants, pants, the
Pants the
virus.
virus.
Yeah. So all of those things made a difference. And that's how you connect. I mean, we did ice cream. I can
Mm-hmm.
remember countless number of nights I was there at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, passing out ice cream. In fact, I'll never forget, if I may digress a bit, an anecdote. We were passing out ice cream, and I had a habit of asking the staff, why are we passing out ice cream? And I would get these various answers, and I would explain why we were there. One staff member said to me at one time, I said, why are we passing out ice cream at 12 midnight? And she said, because they're expiring tomorrow and you want to get rid of them.
Oh, wow.
So needless to say, she doesn't work there anymore. No, just kidding. We explained why we were giving out the ice cream. But it's those little things that make a difference. You know what? It makes you human, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you relatable. And that's the thing that I've always liked to do with the staff, is be relatable. Didn't want to be this suit, in the ivory tower. I just despise that.
And that being relatable, celebrating the team, that is a way to really, the feet in the dirt aspect of this, staying grounded, staying in tune with the needs and the feedback, being receptive to that at the ground level. And it made a difference. It truly, I experienced it firsthand. It made a difference, especially during that crazy time of COVID, when people were just getting burned out and there was so much stress in our life outside of work and inside. That made a true difference. I truly feel. And when you're when you're affirming, when you are celebrating, when you're acknowledging and recognizing the team, but then you also give them a platform to be, the other direction, sharing their feedback, sharing their information in real time, and
Mhm.
being receptive to it and taking action on it. That shows connectedness, that shows that relationship is there. And that's very, very important when it comes to this. What, in your experience, what are some challenges that leaders face when trying to stay in tune? We already talked about the generational differences there and the communication, but like when you're trying to stay in tune with the frontline team and the supervisors spread out across the county, what are some of the other challenges that you face as a leader? And then what are some strategies that you found helpful to overcome those?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges was time, or the lack thereof. Being able
Mm-hmm,
to spend the time with the team and leaders, the supervisors, and such, and still being able to carry out the other functions. And what was my responsibilities were to the organization, to the community, and to corporate. And the
mm-hmm,
community took a lot of my time. I spent a lot of time on different boards in the community, and the team doesn't see that. They don't really recognize that and the importance of that. But that sucks away time from my ability to be on campus and be with the staff.
mm-hmm,
That's one of the biggest challenges. I think the second thing, and I mentioned this before briefly, is generally the whole labor workforce, getting enough staff to fill those positions. When I left in January, we had 90 vacant FTE nurses,
mm-hmm,
90 out of a workforce of about 550. So, clearly 20%, 15% of our staff were vacant, and to backfill those was a real challenge. And then utilization of outside help, agency, is good, but it's not your permanent team, and that adds
mm-hmm,
another element of a challenge to try and keep up that communication. And like anything else, it's expenses and cost. Um, at Somerset, when I left, when we did the 23 budget, we had a budget of $310 million. We were, $310 million organization. And to keep those costs contained so that there's some semblance of a bottom line. And look, let's face it, we are a bottom line driven organization. We have
mm-hmm,
to be in order to do, our capital improvements and give raises and such. That's become more and more of a challenge.
mm-hmm,
So the fiscal aspect of trying to keep that in focus. And as you remember, Ryan, at our leadership meetings, I was very honest with the team. When we
mm-hmm,
were making money, we told everyone we weren't making money. We told them why we weren't making money and what we
mm-hmm.
needed to do. And I think that open, honest communication gave them another level of understanding. But those are the four things that I think are the biggest challenges for any CEO, regardless of his or her organization.
And when you have that openness and the way we had it in our leadership meetings, it there it facilitates a shared accountability because everyone understands what their role is in helping the organization as a whole meet those goals.
Right.
And if there's an ask put out there, hey, I need everyone to think about X, Y, and Z so we can meet this goal. Everybody knows what they are. And then also there's a forum for feedback of, oh, I'm having difficulty meeting that X because of this, this, and this. Well, that's able to be communicated back. But if that communication and relationship is not there between the
Mm-hmm.
executive and senior leadership team and the service line leaders in the front line, those, it's just one directional. And then people think they can't meet those expectations and then they get frustrated.
Yeah.
And that ultimately leads to even more turnover and burnout. And then further exacerbating the staffing issue that you mentioned. So
Yeah.
that definitely can be a big, when you have that two directional relationship communication, that forum for doing that, it changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we found out is the mobility of the younger generation. And to me,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's younger at this point in my life, but the younger generation, kids coming out of college, with their first degrees, whether it's nursing or any other profession, have a lot of mobility.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come into an organization, they have an expectation. And if that expectation in their mind isn't met quickly, they tend to, pick up their sticks and move somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of that churning. Obviously, again, that I hate to bring up COVID, but it was exacerbated with
Mm-hmm.
COVID. But still, that whole process of where am I going to go to find out exactly what I want to do, and is it the perfect environment for me? Turnover rate was like 35% in our organization, and it was equally as high, if not higher, in some others. And that, you turn over a third of your organization every year. That's a huge cost,
Yeah.
and just a huge burden, because you have to retrain. In our case, if you
Hmm.
turn over 30 organizations, about 900 people, you have to retrain 900 people every year. That's tough.
Yeah. And that just speaks to the importance of relationships, team dynamics, culture, doing whatever you can to take care of and provide the opportunities for those people in-house, internal, to stay on board and have opportunities for growth so that you don't have to worry as much. You can't avoid it completely, but
Right.
minimize that turnover, minimize people resigning because of reasons they're unhappy or because of those other dynamics that lead to it,
Yeah,
beyond
and
the controllable ones.
that's where middle management comes in. Your
Yeah.
directors. Your
Hmm.
directors are so important, because as a senior manager, like I said, time is one of my biggest constraints.
Yeah.
But the director on that particular patient care unit or in that service needs to fully understand the message, and he or she has to be able to work with the team on a daily basis
Hmm.
to identify their needs and their wants, and so on. And if the leader, the director on that unit isn't getting what he or she needs, they need to communicate that up to their vice president.
Yeah.
But it's the director. I believe the directors, are the key to the success of an organization as well. I mean, I was there back in the day, and that's a tough spot, because you have the pressures of the families that you're dealing with, your staff, and then you have the executives. So you're kind of like the cream in the Oreo cookie,
Hmm.
and you're getting a lot of pressure. That's a tough job.
Yeah. And let's talk about that, because when you're talking about the directors and the frontline service providers, they also, we already talked about the communication of the big picture. But what, from their perspective, thinking big picture, because it's easy to get caught up in, this is my job, this is what I'm paid to do here. Um, and a big part of it is those directors empowering and supporting and affirming them, but also communicating those visions. What advice do you have to those frontline employees, those team members, to keep in mind the big picture stuff while not sacrificing doing what's necessary to do right in front of them?
Yeah. It's certainly a big challenge. And again, appropriate selection of individuals who
Mhm.
share the same vision, and share the same behaviors that you share, in terms of wanting to always do what's best for the organization. And I think the focus that we did with the directors is we provided a fair amount of opportunity of tools that allow
Mhm.
them to increase their skill set, which I think
Yeah.
is important. I believe you never stop learning. You always continue to learn. And till the day I retired, I was always learning something new every day. That's what kind of the beauty of healthcare is, you can appreciate, right? Every day is
Mhm.
different. But those directors have to have the tools to do their job. And it's up to the executive team to make sure they do and identify those. I mean, every year we would do a really in-depth evaluation of all of our directors and all of our
Mhm.
managers. Our senior team would sit down, and we would go through every single director and every single manager, and look at their strengths and weaknesses, so to speak. Did they have high potential? Were they high professionals? What should be the next logical step for them? Should they stay where they are? So we did a lot of analysis and evaluation of staff, of the directors rather, and managers. We also did a lot of recognition of them. And most of our vice presidents, as you probably remember, allowed the directors to do their own thing. I mean,
Mhm.
you're a good example of that, right? We really let you run with a lot of stuff, and you were out there in the community, probably one of the biggest cheerleaders for the organization, and a visible individual. And I don't think anyone at Marla was your direct report, and then Patrick to Marla, but I don't think anyone put any kind of undue pressure on you. I think we recognize your skill set and your capabilities and let you run with it.
Mhm.
And that's what we should do. We should always surround ourselves with people who are knowledgeable in a particular skill set that I don't have a knowledge for. And I don't fear that. I think that's a great thing, because the better the team is around you, the better you look. I tell them that all the time. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So that's really important, to recognize the strengths of those individuals, capitalize on that, allow them to spread their wings and do their thing. Um, we have lost a lot of directors in a good way. We have
Mhm,
directors go on to other positions, yourself is one of them, and to succeed dramatically. And I take that as a good thing.
mhm.
Why not? If people have a skill set, we can accommodate that skill set, but they can do better somewhere else. That's what we should be doing.
Yeah, and you spoke to three, from what you just said, there are three really key aspects of team dynamics that helps for a growth-minded culture. When you support your team with education opportunities, RWJ Somerset provided a ton of continuing education allowance and opportunities for team members to personally grow in an area where they wanted to focus in collaboration with their goals, with their directors and whatnot. So that support for that professional development was crucial.
Yeah,
The ability to climb the ladder and look for opportunities in-house versus having to go outside of the system for them is another thing. When you have a team where there's almost a clinical ladder, that you could visualize and see, hey, all right, this is what my next step I want to get to, and this is how I can get there, and your leaders support you on that climb. That's so crucial. And then the other part of it was the being able to have structured autonomy, so you have the ability to be autonomous, you trust your team, you trust your key players to do what they do best, yet you provide a framework from which, so we're all on the same mission, that they can do it. I think those are three really important aspects of team dynamics to keep healthy cultures in the workplace. So I appreciate you mentioned those. Is there anything else that comes to mind when it comes to like team dynamics, culture, that you feel helps everybody remain more unified on a company mission,
yeah,
that service delivery?
yeah. I think one more key factor is just the cultural diversity of the organization
Mhm.
and the acceptance of those diversity within the organization. As you know, we were really big on cultural diversity early on. I
Yes.
mean, we were one of the first hospitals to have a D&I director. We, as you know, embraced the LGBTQ community by, when we opened up our Proud Center, and now it's the Bab Sipperstein Proud Center. We celebrate every ethnic recognition, and the hospital continues to do that because I still follow them, on LinkedIn, and I think that's really important. But identifying each culture and not rewarding, but celebrating those cultures, regardless of what it is, and treating everyone equally. After the George Floyd incident a few years back, we brought together our African American colleagues in Fold Auditorium and had just a cleansing session. People could say whatever they wanted to say just to get it off their minds, and stuff like that's really important. We honor Pride Month every single year. They did it again this year, raising the Pride flag. Those things really make a difference in terms of galvanizing the organization and the recognition of the diversity of the cultures that make us who we are. And I said that, and I'm rambling a little bit, so I apologize.
Oh, it's good.
I said that at every orientation. As you know, I did every new employee
Right.
orientation. I loved it. And at every orientation, one of the things I always pointed out was I celebrated our diversity.
Mhm.
And when you look around the room, at times we would hire 60, 70, 80 people, and Fold Auditorium, as you remember, would be filled. And I would just say, look around the room, and what do you see? Everyone is different. You see difference, and that's what makes our organization special. And I truly believe that. I may be an old white dude, but I truly believe that cultural diversity is a truly important aspect, within society, but also, within a organization or a business.
It absolutely is, and embracing that to the fullest extent. I'm reminded of my kids' elementary school. They have a mantra that's up throughout the school, and on T-shirts it says "unique and united." So it's really
Nice.
embracing everybody's uniqueness while all united as one team. And I think that is very crucial when it comes
Yeah.
to team dynamics. Everybody needs to feel like they are appreciated there, they are wanted, they feel like they belong to that team versus they're in a silo or they don't fit in. That's always an uncomfortable situation. And I
Yeah.
truly believe we as leaders have a responsibility to set a culture that gets rid of that feeling for anyone, so that we can truly make the most of their contributions and work together effectively as a team.
Yeah. Well said. Well
Yeah,
said.
absolutely. Well, as we wrap things up, Tony, what's one call to action, for, let's say we're a budding leader is watching this or listening to this, someone who really is looking for that next step in their career. What's your call to action for that leader if they want to take things to the next level and grow their leadership style and skills to another level? What's one call to action you have for them?
Step out of your comfort zone. You know, if you're a pharmacist like I was when I first started, um, I wanted to do more, and I asked to be challenged, and I stepped out of my comfort zone. I took on things, responsibilities that I never thought I could do. A great example, if I could, Ryan, is
Mm.
when I was vice president of operations at a competing healthcare system back in the day. My president at the time asked me, we were doing terrible with physician recruitment, and he said, "I want you to take over physician recruitment and development." And I said, "I'm an operations guy. I know nothing about physician recruitment and development." He said, "No, I believe you can do it. And starting tomorrow, you're going to be our vice president for physician development." So I took it on. And long story short, we were very successful. But I was scared to death. It was outside of
Mhm.
my comfort zone. So you want to be successful as a leader, put yourself out in front, offer up things, look at things that are not within your skill set to broaden that skill set, because the more valuable you are in terms of the ubiquitousness, if that's such a word, of your knowledge base, the more valuable you are to the organization, and therefore you can grow within your organization. Leverage what it is that you do best, but also step outside into areas that you're not comfortable with. Education, as I said before, is key, and keeping a keen eye and just looking beyond the surface of what's going on. You know, healthcare, if you're in healthcare or, technology, any kind of business, the evolution is so rapid that you have to be able to look way ahead in order to understand what's going on. And I think that with the individuals coming up now, I think we have to continue to foster that. We have to really make that an interesting phenomenon. And you'll do great. I just think you'll do great.
That's
And last thing,
yeah, go ahead.
and some folks are comfortable doing just that one thing that we're doing. I mean,
Mhm.
we had a number of directors who were really good at what they did. I thought they had potential to do other things, and they were very happy being a director, a really good director of their
Mhm.
particular service, and that's okay too.
Yeah. And I think as a leader, recognizing those who are very happy and satisfied and fulfilled in their current role, and those who are hungry for something else is really key. And you lead them differently. You support them in a way that empowers that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
crucial.
that is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. You can't force that square peg in the round hole.
Mhm.
You got to be
Yeah.
able to identify that and leverage what is best for that particular individual. Everybody can't be you, and you got to be able to recognize that.
Mhm.
And the more experience you get, as you know, Ryan, managing people is a tough job. To me, managing the people was the toughest part of my job. Whether, I knew my job was to keep our organization open so 2,300 people could put food on the table. That's my overall job when I looked at it. But the day-to-day management of all the individuals is tough. And as you spread out into the community and you spread out to other organizations, you have to be able to balance the all those different folks and individuals and their nuances, and that remains one of the toughest things.
Yeah. And I think that's so crucial for leaders is to hone those skills, those interpersonal skills, and being able to connect at a deeper level. Because when you can connect, when you have those skills to another level, being able to communicate with people, it allows you to be more effective in managing people, versus just dictating or trying to provide structure that is just confining. And so when you have the ability to do that, that makes a world of difference. And yes, you step outside your comfort zone, and it allows you to challenge it and grow yourself. That's very valuable. Reminds me of when Anastasia called me up and said, "Hey Ryan, we've got a stretch project for you. Are you familiar with Edison?" For the COVID vaccine mega site, the staffing opportunity. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, All right. But I
That's
learned
way
so much
outside of
from
what
that.
you were doing, right? Way
I,
outside of what
I
you were
learned
doing.
so much from that experience that
Yeah.
truly diversified my leadership and challenged it to a new level. And I'm so grateful and appreciative for that opportunity, So that stuff happens when you're willing to step outside your comfort zone and take on something new and exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just critical. And you know, it's a little uncomfortable, right?
Hmm.
It's really uncomfortable to do that. But if you want to be successful, it's okay to be uncomfortable. I was in situations many, many times that were really uncomfortable, and you just have to be able to plow through those. And as you said before, manage it. You got to be
Hmm.
able to manage it. You're never always going to get the outcome that you want every single time. There's an element of compromise in almost everything that you do. And I've learned some of those lessons the hard way. I've been having to deal with a lot of physicians over my career, tough group of individuals to deal with at times. And you don't always win. You got to compromise.
Absolutely. Well, Tony, truly appreciate your insights and the great conversation today. Thank you so much. If anyone wants to follow up with you, I know they can find you on LinkedIn and can reach out to you that way. Enjoy retirement. You earned it. Enjoy the time with the family and your travels. And I wish you nothing but the very best down the road with your future endeavors the rest of your life here.
Thanks, Ryan. The best to you as well. I know you're going to continue to be a success. I have no doubt about that. So thank you for allowing me to spend some time with you today.
Absolutely, Tony. Appreciate it. All right. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk again soon.
All right, be well.